You're on. You're live. Mhm. Okay. Good night to all those who are now joining. Share the live, share the live, share the live. Dr. Matthews is in the house. Share the live. You can notify your friends and families. Let them know that the GMS Live, the voice of democracy, is on. Share the live. Share the live. Share the live, share the live, share the live, share the live. As you come in, share the live. Before I start, share the live. I want to thank all those who have waited for the Dr. Matthews show. It's the GMS Live, Voice of Democracy. Welcome. Good night to you all. Good evening. Black love. Black love. Black love to you all. Black love. Yes. Well, as I'm not like the others, so I cannot really say to persons. I see some people are asking me to say just to call out their names, but I don't think I want to. It's not something I may call from the area in which you call out the names from the area in which you are calling from, which and I have a few names tonight to call out, and it was it a few areas, name of areas that I'm willing to call out. So I'll take another minute before I start. It started at 6:38. Yes, I'll take another minute. So good night to you all. Good evening. Good night, good morning, good afternoon to whichever part of the world you're now joining me from. Share this live feed. Share this live feed. The GMS Live, the voice of democracy, is on. Share the live. Welcome and good evening to you all. So we'll now start. Yes. So good evening from Guyana to you in the Caribbean Isles, the Pacific Isles, the West Indian Isles, the British Virgin Isles, the US Virgin Isles. Good night to you that are in the Maldives, those who are joining me from Mexico, from the United States of America, to Canada, to the United Kingdom, to the European Union, to the Chinese, to China, as a matter of fact, to Beijing and Hong Kong, to those who are joining from there, from Japan and Taiwan. Yes, there are people who are looking at the Gavin Matthews show from that particular area too. And I want to call out to that person who spoke to me tonight, all the way from India. And I was very much surprised because I saw the number and I'm saying, it's a +9 number, +9 something, something. I'm like, okay. I was looking at a number earlier and I couldn't really believe that I was speaking to someone from that particular part of the world. +91. That's the number. It's a +91, and then it continues. And I had to verify it because basically I didn't know which country carries that. And so good night to you from there. Good night to you from here to there, to Canada, to in India. Good night to those who are joining me from the African continent. From, as a matter of fact, from the Australian continent, and New Zealand Isles, and the Tonga Isles. Good night to you from Guyana. Good evening to you, sorry, from Guyana. And to the African continent. Good evening to those who are looking to the Dr. Matthews show from the South American continent, as far as Chile and Argentina and Venezuela and Colombia, in Brazil, in Suriname, French and Dutch Guyana. To those who are joining from the Netherlands, mind you, some of the European countries are part of the Netherlands, you know, and to those who are joining from as far as Curacao and Trinidad and Tobago, that wants to be constantly called out, and I'm feeling much happy that I'm hailing you up. Tonight, this evening, it's a specific topic that I want to stretch on. And my topic ranges in the area of the systematically destabilization of Guyana. Systematically destabilization of Guyana, or destabilization of Guyana. And I want to touch on that topic because, and the reason why I'm touching on that topic, because we don't seem to understand that that's in play right now. Some of us don't seem to want to wonder that the systematic destabilization of Guyana is in play right now. And there are powers thereof that will want to continue that systematic destabilization. So Guyana can become a destabilized world, country, as a matter of fact. So why did I bring up this topic? Here is a question that I want to bring up to all those who are looking. You can answer it in your own time. You can write in the comment by answering. You can call in, and maybe we can have that discussion. But this is the truth, and I want you to understand exactly where I'm coming from. Question is, how come 220 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of their currency? To break it down into layman terms, how come 220 Guyana dollars is worth $1? I'm trying to find that out. When we are the ones with the resources, the gold, the diamond, the timber, the bauxite, the sugar, the oil, we are the ones with the resources. They are not. How come? And that's the question I'm asking to those who are looking. Maybe somebody, some economist maybe can call in and we can have that chat so we can break it down into syllables, because I'm trying to understand how come we are the ones with the aid. Because we are the, if you understand what is aid is a substance found in consumable items, resources that can be used as a bargaining chip for a country around the world so you can trade. How come we are the ones with the resources? Because the resources is here. Because I don't see any resources that we so much need from the Western world. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's not making any sense. So this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a post-colonial free meal system. Like, for instance, let me show you a simple example. The last I checked, Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have a big landscape of citrus fruits. But when I buy a fruit canned juice, or when I buy another different canned juice and I look at it and it says packaged and canned in Trinidad and Tobago, but produce Guyana. So I'm looking at the thing and I'm wondering, wait man, I'm trying to conceptualize this nonsense because the product is coming from here and it's going all the way to this country to be refined, to be poisoned. The natural product, it's leaving Guyana, the shores of Guyana. It has no preservatives inside. It is a natural product leaving Guyana and going all the way there to be packaged. And by its package, the subsidies are being added to it that we may call preservatives, chemicals then, and can be canned off and brought back to Guyana to be sold. And when we're drinking it, the adjectives that are inside of it, and I call them adjectives or preservatives, whichever one, it's what is killing us out. Because we have the natural fruit, we have the natural product that we can use. Let me show you a simple example. There is a particular gas company that collects the wastes that being sucked out from the septic tank into those big tanks from Savons and Purans and all these people, disposable companies. And they're being taken to a particular storage facility, a tank. And the fumes that are being trapped in that tank, they release it, can it off into bottles or in cans that we call gas tank or cooking gas. Trapped it off in there, fill these cylinders with it. Free. It's coming from us. We got to pay them $4,000 and $5,000 a 20-pound bottle to cook with the same gas that is coming from our waste that goes into the septic tank. Why I choose this topic tonight? Because we see the systematically destabilization of a country that is filthy rich. This country is so wealthy that we got 1% of the people trying to fool us and destabilize our brains in the way we think. How come 220 Guyana dollars is equal to one colored paper that has no worth behind it? Nothing whatsoever. I'm talking about the American dollar. Let's use that as for instance. We can use that, or we can use the pounds, or we can use the euros. The thing is that these people currency carries no weight because there's no resource behind it. Do you know that before the product of any country goes into the United States of America, the first product or produce that the US produces has to be the first thing off the shelf before the rest competes? So what is happening to Guyana? Our food resources are being trapped and being reduced to nothing because our farmers now can't afford to plant, because when they plant and they take their produce to the market, the imported stuff are cheaper than that which is good and healthy for us. Let me show you a simple example. Before I came on tonight, I had a wonderful discussion with my better half. I had a wonderful, wonderful discussion. What was the discussion? She said clearly, we need to promote healthy eating. And how can we do that? We need to use the airwaves to do that. So I was wondering, that's a very good idea. But here was the problem. If you turn on your radio now in Guyana, let me say you use 94.1. You turn on the radio now, you can hear you got to sing for 2 pieces of Kentucky Fried Chicken. If you turn on the radio now, you turn it up to 94, you tune it in, you can hear come and sing for 2 pieces of fried chicken, some French fries, and a cup of soda. That adds nothing to your body. There's no health factor to it. The soda is loaded with sugar. The chicken is loaded with saturated fat. Because remember, they got to prop it up in order for you to sell, which is known as junk food. And the French fries make it better. Depends on what they fry it with. But what are you gaining from it? So little do we know in this conversation, there's a continued destabilization of a country. Because if I encourage you to continue eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, churches, and Popeyes, that means nobody's cooking. Nobody's preparing a healthy meal in their homes so their children can eat. That's one aspect of destabilization. So I'm not promoting eating. Another form of destabilization is to tell you that your resources are worthless. So the only reason you can get resources, let's say give you a piece of colored paper and tell you that's the worth of your resources. So why am I fighting for a piece of colored paper? I can't understand that marks either US or either mark Great Britain or Euros. Why am I fighting for that? Why am I destabilizing my country for that? What worth can that bring to me? It could only destabilize your country because it's not the country's currency. Your country is far much wealthier than that of the US, than that of Great Britain, because if you don't give them your aid, Or if you don't make a bargain with your rate, they will starve to death. They got hundreds of millions of people in their population, they can't feed them. They could, but they don't want to feed them. Because they remember now they're taking the resources from us. We're starving and they're out of food. What sense does it make when our political parties, are promoting the destabilization of a country by accepting vaccines that are not worth it to vaccinate a nation, and they don't even know what's in those vials? They can tell you, but they don't know. We don't have a lab to make the chemical analysis to find out what are in those vials. We got crazy people diagnosing crazy things to us. They don't know. They don't have a clue. The people tell them, yes, you got people with coronavirus in your country, but they don't even know what we have. Ask the minister that. And if he said, yes, you got coronavirus, well then, where is the lab that you've isolated this virus and identify it? Where is the lab? Where is the scientific evidence to say, well, look, yes, coronavirus is in Guyana? Don't bother the PCR test. You don't know what the PCR test is testing. Oh, and the PCR test is for the SARS-CoV. That's what the PCR test tests you for, the SARS-CoV. That's the virus. And number two, the positive understanding that I don't know what they're talking about, because how can they come around with the positive or with it being positive or negative? You have to trap the disease that you're calling coronavirus or the virus. You have to trap it. You have to have a lab that you can work with the information, and lab technicians and scientists working together to identify this deadly phenomenon. It's a continued destabilization of a country because information erased is misinformation. An uneducated nation that becomes a nation of ignorant people. It is a continued destabilization of a country, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, it is evident that the resources that are coming from us is in need of the West. And they will break every structural system down to take what you have. And the first thing they will do is to destabilize your country. Now we have a de facto administration that is being in place by a foreign adversary that has to destabilize a country so they can get the wealth of the country. And that destabilization process happens with a working progress. What's the working progress? You get the army and the police to work in accordance with your understanding so the destabilization can continue. Then you have to have the judicial system to take away your rights from you so the destabilization can continue. Then you have to have the laws being taken away so you have no representation. Then you have to have political parties that are working in the process of destabilization. That's the only way those things can happen. It is hurtful to see what is going on. Can you tell me what health can you arrive from singing for 2 pieces of fried chicken, some French fries, and a cup of soda? It's a continued promotion of unhealthy behavior. It is, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, this is the fact. And we become so blinded to the fact that we don't want to know the truth. We are looking for leaders to lead in this day and age, in this time in which we have a pandemic that is wiping out a nation of people. And we got a health minister who looks very happy because the more dead turn up, the better for him. Nobody's talking about healthy eating, practice of healthy consumption of goods. And what is the health factor? No nutritionist to sit and explain to the people that you have to come off of certain food groups because you realize that it only expands those who now trouble from this variant and this COVID disease. They're not saying that to you. Big long lines at the fast food services, and they're drenching it in oil. And the heavy sugar creates the more mucus on your system, destroys you with this little virus they got now. This little cold virus that originates from dog and cat. It's a veterinary virus. That means it belongs in animals. But they're not going to tell you that. They want you to stand up in line, accept a shot in your arm that comes from violet cannot be identified. You could imagine the Food and Drug Administration approve it. What they approve is the emergency use of it. But it hasn't up to now been a standard improvement for an improvement to be added to the human lifestyle. Like how the normal flu shot is accepted and approved by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, to be constantly be used and developed. Because of the evidence that is provided by these suddenly intuitions from all these pharmaceutical companies, the stable study of it is not even provided. So now we have a triple continuation of a destabilization. We got misinformation, miseducation, and a misuse of dietary supplements. So nobody's there to guide you as a people and as a nation. We got a lot of dead people walking around the place because there's nothing that they could identify themselves to get healthy, because there's nobody there to gather and to help them. How does 220 Guyana dollars equal itself to $1 when we have the resources? We have all the resources. We got enough resources to feed us, the entire Caribbean, and parts of the South American continent. We got enough resources to do that. Food resources, you call it. A country without food resources is no country at all, because you will now be led into poverty. You look at some rich African countries that are so wealthy in wealth, in resources, but their people suffer the consequences of having the benefits of it and they become poor. Is Guyana leading down that way? We fighting over which man to elect to become our opposition leader. And talking all kind of nonsense when there's no unity. When there's no unity there for all of them to unite for one common goal, to defeat the PPP. We're dying out like fleas, lambs to the slaughter, because there's a continuous destabilization. There's a continuous destabilization. Over what? Who are we destabilizing? You can imagine now we are left with ourselves. As a nation of Guyanese, the majority is that of African Guyanese or a mix right now. Because we ain't got a majority of East Indian race anymore. We don't have that. They are completely migrated because of the terrorist regime of the PPP. The PPP doesn't have a constituency anymore. That's the biggest lie that they could ever think of. Y'all don't sit down and accept the stupidness that comes out of these people's mouth. Now we are left with us. Now the PPP is trying to divide us by class, the working class and the poor class, because they ain't got race vote no more. It's hard for them to find it. Guyana become a multiracial society. So the minute you look wrong and you look like me, they study if you're a Madras Indian or is a black man. Because they ain't got it no more. Actually, a fraud can tell you the dance because he look like a black man when he sit down for talk. But here is the problem. They're trying to destabilize the rest that is left. So we can end up like Rwanda, the Hutsi and the Tutsis. We fight among ourselves. That's the next step. It's the continuous destabilization. We are so wealthy as a nation that the people are so ignorant that they ain't staying for look and see the wealth that we got. Picking up Michael Jackson. That's what they're doing. We are so wealthy that nobody's there to inform us of the amount of wealth that we got. And the business community that's left can't even develop their own country internally because they can't invest in it. Their wealth becomes so questionable that they can't even represent their own wealth. They can't give account or have an accountability for their own wealth. So they can't shape up for no contract. They can't show accountability. We got people with multi-billion-dollar organizations and the owners in jail. If the owners in jail, who they going to running from jail? This is what we got in Guyana. So we got the foreign investors coming out to take advantage of a country that can't represent itself because it's been destabilized. That's what is happening. The country is so destabilized, it's becoming more and more of that every day. You could You can't even turn up at the bank for get you own money until when you get a covert card. The card will telling you that your debt is imminent. But we want to know that we are hustling to survive because we're working for a piece of paper with some ink on it. We think that is the race to survival for the fittest. But we don't think that our land is so fertile that we can afford to feed our own selves. All we have to do is turn around and look back and realize that we can do that. We don't have to depend upon a foreign company or a foreign country to feed us as a country. We can feed our own selves. Our land can grow anything. Anything. You name it, we can grow it. You name it, we can grow it. Let's be simple and factual. Look at Barbados. You think Barbados could sustain its own self from its own resources? Where is the resources like where we got? Nothing. And it's $2 to $1 billion. $2 to $1 billion. Where is the resources? And they depend upon tourism. Like the Dominican Republic and all those places. They depend upon tourism to flourish. And we have so many resources that we decide to accept systematic destabilization or destabilization, whichever one it is properly pronounced, so you can overstand. How can we bring ourselves out of this? By self-sustainability, self-reliance. We don't have to rely upon anybody for nothing. We don't want, you know what's the amazing thing? We got 15 natural resources, exclude oil, that they suddenly find. We could survive without them digging for the oil. That's how factual it is. When they frack those plates, when I mean fracking means to fracture, to crack it, to find the oil. And those gases escape. You know what happens after then? Those plates that our continent or part of our country, the continent which sits upon, from time to time have constant earthquakes. Constant earthquakes beneath the seashore brings about a different weather pattern in the water. Sometimes it is so acidious, it changes that marine weather pattern, and suddenly we find we got all kind of seasons coming in. Suddenly we start getting a little bit of snow. Because while they're damaging down there, they're also damaging up there into the atmosphere by burning off the excess natural gas that is tearing up the atmosphere. So suddenly Guyana experiencing extreme heat, and we say, oh, it's the sun and the ozone layer. Yes, it is. But the continuous oil exploration continues to destroy our natural climate. But here is the problem. It is destroying our natural climate, but yet still then we getting money to help to repair it. There's nothing we can do because the resources that they're now having and enjoying, the financial resources, they're in the New York Central Bank. Where them political thieves can get. So they're trying to work all sorts of jiggery poogery to see if they could get money based upon what is in the New York Central Bank. 830 million US dollars. You know, hold on, I think I got somebody to delete. I'll fight up Mr. Kesh Sharma. You're afraid. You're asking me if I want to be president for Guyana. Yes, of course. Of course. But y'all can't handle me because stupidity is something I ain't gonna encourage. I've never encouraged that. You got to get real as a people and understand the temerity of where you are and what is happening. Got to understand that. You got to focus. If you can't understand, stand over it. It's the better thing to do because you're upon the knowledge of facts. So nobody can make you no fool. Nobody can come to your country and tell you, well, look, give me your natural resources that can give you $1 billion US dollars. To do what? $1 billion US dollars and you can't eat because your resources now taken away from you. You can imagine, think about it. I come in to collect all the resources that you got to live upon. And where you can't live upon, you can't plant, you can't grow, collecting all of that. And in the space of collecting all, I get you a piece of paper, little ink on it. How you eating? Take a good look next door. The only resources Venezuela depended upon then was the oil resources, the monies from the oil. They import actually 90% of their produce. When the Western world decided to come down upon them, that's when they put an embargo on the entire country. Well, here, nobody's to feed them. So they become a country of hungry people with lots of money. You can imagine $1 million for a loaf of bread, but you can pay $2 for a tank of gas. You got gas to give away. Yet still, you can't afford to eat. How you going to eat? You can buy the money in a pot. How are you going to eat? The US currency, you're going to take all the big fancy money we hearing. It's not developing our country. It's not taking our country anyway. Thank you for calling the oh, well, person hang up. It's not taking the country anywhere. How are you developing? By what? All this big fancy money, this rat telling you about Jack Dio. Economically, how is the country developing? And economics is a very nice thing because economics teaches you that you use your country resources to develop. I'm seeing it the other way around. The country resources being taken from us and we can't develop. And they're trying to tell you, oh, we can bring foreign investors to come in with their labor market to work because we don't have the skilled persons to work in the oil sector. Is the oil sector the only thing? Suddenly the rice farmers disappear. Sugar disappear. Vegetation disappear. Believe you me, it's going to disappear. It's getting really expensive because the farmers are little. You know why the greens are expensive? You know why the vegetation that we eat, we call it greens. The callaloo and the belange and the okra and all these things that we make part of our pots at the end of the day. You know why it's expensive? Because the farmers are reducing. It's expensive to farm. So there's a lot of people now staying away from farming because they can't afford to farm. That is what you call the destruction of our food resources. When you destroy a country food resources, the capability to feed themselves as a nation, that's it. That is it. And we keep asking ourselves our question, where are we going? You mean, where are we going? Imagine you get a piece of land to build your house. You concrete the entire yard. The natural fertile earth that you can plant your little kitchen garden. So you can have your own vegetations to eat and to cook and to pick. And your spices and your herbs. Your own little kitchen garden, you have enough. You can imagine you got a 100 by, let us say, 100 by 40, 100 feet in length and 40 feet in width, or 100 by 50 piece of land. You take up the entire piece of property to concrete it and build a concrete house, when you can have a nice little kitchen garden to feed your family. What happens when the Guyana dollar has no worth because there's no food resources? Our currency developed upon, and it depends upon the resources of our country. And the main one is food. The main resource to the strength of our dollar is food. When they take that away, we ain't got a dollar. And we'll have to work so hard to get the US dollar and to spend it back into our country because our dollar has no value. How you going to eat? You going to put the US currency in your pot? Oh, and I remember we can take it and buy the imported products that are heavily poisoned to bring into the country and feed the family. That means we cannot control now the growth of our nation. Since we can't control the food resources, we can't control the growth, we can't control the education, we can't control the economy. Another man there in the next office controlling everything. It's not Guyanese. And when they done plunder this country, it become a dark age because we gone back till into the 1700s. A whole country with slaves. The politicians are slaves, the lawyers, the doctors, everybody becomes slaves because now we got to work. And our work depends on how we survive. And in such a case, you will now have high probability of crimes. Suddenly can't control nothing. Everything we depend upon is them. And you can imagine we have so many resources. Systematic destabilization. That is how we're living under. That is the goal of the day, and the politicians are there. And they come in and tell you nothing. It was the biggest conversation in the gap for the day. Which person is veteranly known to run the PNC or the APNU? This is gaff. This is nonsense we gaffing at. And them is the opposition. You want to tell your which is the truth? Tell them same political leaders that fighting for heads of party, all of them got to come together for a common cause and one goal: to defeat the PPP, because the PPP cannot win an election anymore. Election wouldn't be depend upon the democratic rule of the day, which you have to be majority voted for to attain office. It ain't gonna be the goal no more. Is the goal gonna be installation of governments. And that's how the first world system runs. That's how the West runs. The West do not run and support countries that people democratically vote for the leaders. They agree with countries that they can install leaders. So that's the political norm. And when you install leaders, those leaders got to be tyrants. Because those leaders that they're talking about cannot develop the country economically, could only fill the pockets of the moguls that belongs to those first world countries and the political system of those first world countries. Simple example, if Africa stopped their resources now that's going to places like France and Europe, that's the end of them because they can't eat. Nothing grows up on a rock. Nothing. Nothing that is consumable can grow up on a rock. You gotta go where the oil, where the not sorry, where the earth is good enough so it can plant and sprout vegetation of different kinds. Now we have it here in South America. Guyana, which 2/3 of its landmass is by forests. It can grow anything. You could imagine in the capital city of this particular country upon this continent have over 200 species of birds living. It can tell you that our vegetation is rich in minerals. And we got problem with people telling me, you could imagine. Imagine you telling, a man telling me about this COVID and this COVID. I said, you know what? We got one simple ingredient to detox your body on a daily basis. A piece of lemon and a glass of water. The lemon, there's so plenty that when you go on the Linden Suzaik Highway, you can pass and pick. You don't gotta buy. You can pass and pick. Here is the problem. We want to be educated. We want to have 1, 2, 3, and 4 persons come and sit down and say, hey, when I tell you run, fly. It's becoming a problem. And because we accept the kind of living standard, so the systematic destabilization steps in so nicely. It fits the category of the culture that we want to accept. And nobody cares. You think them politicians care? Because we say nothing about it and they can do nothing about it. Oh, well, we can't do nothing about it because no, it's we, the people, have to be there for the people and by the people that we rise up and change the systems. This systematic destabilization, we need to change that. That is the only way the West is going to listen. Every time they rise up and install somebody in Haiti, the Haitians go and change it by an election. They voted predominantly. You can imagine a man telling me about the man with the Haitian president get killed the other day. But he didn't know that that same Haitian president he's talking about, when after the general election that he had, that he claimed victory of it by 6%. 6% of a nation of more than 10 million people. You can imagine we in Guyana, 6% of the electorate voted for him. But because the United States liked him, he was now installed. It is the same thing that's happening here. But because we are an independent country, independent from the colonial powers of Britain and the Commonwealth, because we were a republic. They could only use the Organization of American States to install this fraction that we got here, this dunce, and the rest of them. And you can imagine these people never lived me life. This dunce who we got here never lived me life, and he can't never represent me. And we sit down so quietly. Systematic destabilization. We are afraid to talk. We are afraid to talk. How come suddenly I'm asking the questions? Our country has 15 plus resources, natural and food. We got so much resources. It's a population of 750,000. The working population is less than 450,000. We got such a large land mass. We can't feed we own self. Even if we want to eat vegetation, we got so much fish. In the trenches where I live, and you pass and people throwing a hook and they catching some big fish. And that's in Georgetown, because I'm living in Region 4, but Georgetown. People are catching fish around Georgetown. A protein diet. They're surviving. And you're telling me that we must accept systematic destabilization? It cannot work. And then we got people going to represent us. You know, here was the biggest laugh. We gonna tell to Dubai to talk about Guyana. We gonna tell to Dubai to talk about Guyana. And who's following behind us? The United States of America's Chambers of Commerce that are local here in Guyana. You can imagine they're gone there to represent Guyana, not the US. They're gone there to see what the representation of Guyana is all about. That's our new FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the CIA combined together. Ask Leslie, he could tell you about that one. That's them combined together. You know why? Ask Ear Fraud, that dunce that we got. Ask him. The local business sector, the private sector commission can't budge, because 90% of the businesses that sit in that commission are questionable characters. Suddenly can't give account for the wealth that they got. So they can't invest in the oil sector. They can't even think about training people in the oil sector. So Guyanese got to take up work. The security guard, the driver, and the maid position. Because that's all we're fit for. The businesses that we got to represent this country can't go into the oil sector because they cannot give account for the wealth that they have. So the US Chambers of Commerce that we got to standing up and laughing at me with a spoke in hand, kind of pushing it in all them wheels. So don't cry and complain that we ain't getting jobs in the oil sector and this and that. No. Don't complain. It is the business environment that was created by this de facto administration over a period of 20 years. And the politicians that sat down and allowed this nonsense to happen. If the government changed tomorrow, which economic benefit that Guyana could gain? Oh, the security, the drive in the main position. And here, they're talking about economic benefits, and the opposition claiming to be in opposition. None of them are going to parliament to create local content. Local content, because we don't have a local content. But none of them are not going to parliament to create the lawmakers. That is suddenly in the process, they're talking about it. Oh, they're not even talking about local government elections. Suddenly we can come back with the interim management committee, the IMCs. Because just now all the mayorship and all these councils time gonna run out. And because they can't have local government elections, they can have IMCs, interim management committees. You know, I can tell you this, as a people and as a nation, we continue to encourage nonsense, nonsense will be our reward. We continue to accept politicians that are politically twined to do craziness and to disturb the normal way of life of a democratic nation that wants to live by a democracy. We're going to always live like this because we cannot tell them what we want. They're now telling us what they want. You can imagine nothing. Will the oil sector could come over here and do from Dubai? Then people in Dubai must watch me and laugh and say, watch these people. I can tear the teeth out of their mouth. They're playing the god teeth for smile. When I don't tear the teeth out of the mouth, it's $3 million dentures all I'm going to with. We can charge them a Joe and a crown. Every year, we got to find over $2 million in allowances to give Exxon to enjoy benefits here in Guyana. And that's allowances. We ain't talking about the salary. We have to pay them. Systematic destabilization. Imagine we got to find money to pay these people that we can't even spend in our own country. And then you can tell me I must be quiet when I talk, but two man, you want to get $900 million contractor when we economy only worth $15 million, which is $3 billion Guyana dollars. Because it's the budget to pass. Don't let them show me people sit down and tell you about fancy money, about $400 million, and where they getting it from, how they getting it. If y'all could go to Africa and sit down and smile in collaboration with the African Union, you best go at the Sovereign Wealth Fund and sit down and smile in collaboration of getting monies to invest in Guyana. This is the best option. Don't hide this thing. Don't come back home and pretend. I'm going to tell you something. Politics, I don't follow it up because I don't like it. It's a game. It's the best player win. That's politics. But this is what I don't like. When you can have politics destabilize your country and tear up the constitution, that's a different story. That's a different story. That is a different story. Because I cannot sit down and accept politics to destroy my way of life. It's like coming in my house and sleeping with me wife and then stand up and tell me that I got to accept a second husband. Well, oh no, it can't happen, so I can go out and buy a gun. Telling you straight. This nonsense you see taking place in this country, our children are going to suffer the consequences of it. We can suffer, yes, but those who can suffer the most is our children and their children's children. If we don't take a stand now to fight against this continuous systematic destabilization, we will never ever take a stand. We can't be able to take that stand after. This is a year in and change. And we are still accepting an installed regime and telling me I must laugh and gaff with you. How can that be life in an acceptance? Tell me. Systematic destabilization, this is what I call it. Post-colonial free meal system. That is the nonsense. And whose meal? My meal. You can imagine it coming to me country. Take me food, carry it to their country, poison it, and bring it back to me country and feed me and laugh at me. What is stupidness? That's what's happening. You come to my country, take my food, which is the food security, take it to your country, package it, lace it with poison, call it, what do you call it, preservatives, and bring it back to me country if I sit down and eat it. How disrespectful. Thank you for calling the GMS Live Voice of Democracy. Good night to you. Hello? 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 Can you turn on the instrument in your background? I'm hearing myself. Good night to you, ma'am. Oh, Guyana, how are you? You know, I'm always fired up. I'm always on fire. Yes, yes. I noticed it. I noticed it. Yeah. What we gonna do with this thing coming up here? We got to abide with it. What we gonna do? Abide with what? What are you talking about? This situation where we are in with the COVID and these people going to pay and carry a whole half of the country and that kind of thing. Let me tell you something that my show does not encourage. My show does not encourage abidement with anything of the opposition or the present government. I don't abide with craziness, dear heart. Sorry to say that. I can't abide with it. I cannot sit down and accept it. Neither must you. Because this is what they're taking advantage of. When they put the pressure on us, we feel that we got to abide with it. And we got to stop telling, we cheering it. We got to stop calling our families and telling them it. Because it makes them weak. You understand what I mean? You see how we train, how we get frightened now because by the time the funeral Friday gone, you hear them take up the whole street, police there, I think they're making them people frightened bad how to make a stand in this country, how to stand up for the right thing. And then I hear the threaten the one brother. And the people really getting scared because the bike say, I only can put it steady. I only waiting for you to so for getting you way by. Yes, you slip I gone with you. All the days for woman, powerful and pop. I am very much sorry I had to cut that caller off. And if you're listening to me, I want you to understand me. My medium is not to spread fear. If you're going to call my show, I'm sorry, but I had to. It is not for you to exercise your fear of a government, because I won't encourage you. I'm pretty much sorry about that. So if you know you're going to call Gavin Matthews show, instead of don't call it, just listen, because I'm a revolutionist. I don't have time to encourage fear and a weak, because this is what we are, and the PvP is feeding upon it like a pest. It's a pestilent. There's bloodsuckers, and they feed upon our fear, and they push it some more, and they encourage it some more, and we get so fearful that we tell one another it. We can't abide by it. We can't abide by this. I can't. If I don't abide by it, I don't think you should. I don't want you to come in and tell me like how some people come in and tell me, oh, but you're a one man. Yes, as a one man, and as a tyrant. Because before I die, or if I do die, I'll be a scar that will be left upon their racial memory they never forget. But I will tear their kingdom down, believe you me. That's my intention. So me bluffing nobody. They should know they know the by now. Me got time to bluff nobody. Is either you move out my way when I come, because when I come in like a thundering. Well, I done there already. So soon just shape up right there in your face. So don't feel like I'm back down with your nonsense. Well, they know they can't send nobody for threatening me. I don't take threats lightly. Come out and talk your name, come in front, let's walk this road. Systematic destabilization is something we should never accept. And it's a continuous, you hear this lady tonight? This is a black woman. I'm 100% sure. But the amount of fear that is in her, it is so destructive. It's like a sick, it's a disease. I would not sit down and allow you to express, I'm so sorry. That level of fear, I don't need that. You should not need that neither. It is sad that she has to endure such fear. It is sad, very, very sad for a woman and a mother, and she sounds like a grandmother. And she has to accumulate. That is a lot of fear. That can send her blood pressure up overnight. And we got leaders in this country who ain't even moving to help to kindle 1 ounce of that fear. You got work to do. Instead of a fight over who want to be leader for something where you aren't even making a budget over. Lying to the people. You got the other one lying too. All of them. Get up, stand up, pick up your responsibilities, face it like a man. If you got to go sit down in Camp Street for a couple morning, this way God going to do. That's how leaders be where they are. Leaders are born. They are created. If you tell yourself you're a leader, you're born a leader. Don't come and bluff this thing. Don't roll up and bluff nobody. Throw no battery for nobody. Or come wrong, nobody funny. If you want to make a difference in your country, stand up. Stop having the elderly persons feeling so weak and drained. You can imagine she shouldn't even be calling. She should be enjoying the supplements of leadership out of an opposition party. She should be calling me for tell me, well, here, Gavin, I like what you're doing. If you gotta go up on the road, we can do it. Not to tell me that we can't do nothing about it. That puts me on fire. Okay. Yes, uh, what advice to the people in Guyana now? You know, they were talking about the funeral with the guy that was in France. And what he told the people was, I'm here, I'm going to repeat, all right. What he was saying was this, the black young men, he was saying to the black young men that they should stop walking late, keep your right? Mm. I'm not saying it should be all over the place, late, but telling somebody about keeping your backyard. Don't let them see you out with friends, you know, like in a group. That's foolish. I mean, that's real foolishness. That's driving fear. People trying to keep people locked up while we going back in prison days. I want to say something pertaining to that. I want to say something pertaining to that. If you if you are going to tell people to keep in your backyard and all these things, well then if you are educated enough, come out, choose a day in a week, and going to different villages, arrange certain meetings that you can speak to young people and educate them about this systematic destabilization. That's the better thing to do. But if I sit down and tell them, no, don't come out, stay in your backyard, I don't mind you telling them that, but what else next? You're going to let them just dry? What's the next thing you're going to tell them? People are looking for solutions. That's what people are looking for. When people call, they're looking for solutions to get things done viably correct. They want people to represent them. This is what a young black male or a young black child are looking for, a representation for them to coexist, to survive, to say that you're a human being and not be counted as a slave. That people can just turn up and take your life because you're black. That is what they're looking for. Sorry to go ahead. Are you there? Oh, I think we lost that caller. That is what they're looking for. They want representation. When you stand up and you look, they can say, well, yes, this is a man of faith and courage, and he's willing to die for the cause. None of them is shaping up. You ask them if they're willing to dare, they're telling you something else. But boy, you don't understand the political climate. What is the political climate? Killing people? People being murdered in the street, that's the political climate. That's what we must accept. A man get 2 doses of COVID-19 injection, the next week fall on dead about a week after. If family can't sue the state because the state said we did not mandate COVID-19 vaccination. What we did, we say to persons who has businesses that they must encourage those with green cards to enter to do businesses thereof. So now you can't sue the state because the state never said, oh, mandatory vaccination. And then to top it all off, they put it in the official gazette. So the official gazette is not law, but it's a requirement that they're asking businesses to do. So the banks and all these businesses doesn't want to be the enemy of the state, so they're following suit. So that's why when I call courts Guyana Limited or Unicommer, the lady said, oh no, the law was passed in the official gazette. I asked her what law she's talking about. Because I would like to know the law you want to sue the government. Because I had to ask, what law is she talking about? She can't answer because she's clueless. She's a manager at courts at Unicommer. We become so ignorant, not knowledgeable of the fact that when the government put the chokehold on we, you can imagine learned people, fully learned people who went to University of Guyana and studied for a degree and a diploma and a PhD and a master's, turning around and telling you crap, nonsense. You got to study which part of your brain you got to function to take in all of the nonsense. You know, our backs are going to be out against the wall. When it's time for us to act, might be too late. 23 years ago, prior to 2015 regional general election, 1,480 Guyanese died in this country, including policemen, black men, young men, brothers, fathers, nephews, died on the streets of this country, and the deaths were never justified. You had 2 massacres, 3 of them. Nothing was justified. You think we can get some justification now when we're still behaving like this? If you talk about the judicial service system, I don't know what you're talking about. They imprisoned a man for 5 years. 5 years. I don't care if they said they killed his wife and the high evidence and whatever. The mere fact is they did not produce it in the court of justice. 5 years. Where is justice? You have 2 petitions at the appellate court, which is now the court of the chancellor, because she now has to defend the constitution, while the chattery running around tearing it up. The legal fraternity even saying quack about it. When you talk to the lawyers, oh, but you know, I got friends on both sides of the aisle. I got to mind what I'm saying. Imagine you got to sit down and hear such nonsense. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, Guyanese all. Guyana is a place for all. It will always be a place for all. We must never suffer the consequences of a few. We need our constitution to be restored. Let us hold our political representatives accountable. Let us stop the systematically destabilization of this country by a few for the interest of just a piece of paper with some color on it, because it is not worth a thing. Let us stand and represent not only our people, but our future as a people. Now it's time we hold those political representatives accountable. Now it's time to still vote on that referendum that I have since about 3 months now and going. Let us vote. Let us come out and vote. Let us speak as one people, one nation with one destiny. Don't let us be fooled by those who tend to gimmickly rock us. You know, they ain't gonna like Gavin Matthews, but I don't care. I'm tired and I'm fed up of that. I'm not here to boost or to boost someone's morale. I'm here to wake a nation up, stop them from slumbering and sleeping. I want to say to you, stay safe and be careful. Sanitize yourself and wear a mask, and don't forget to vote. Go to the Gavin Matthews Show page on Facebook. If you're having a problem meeting that page, text me, WhatsApp me on the 611-6575 number that is in front of you. And for those who are overseas, can dial the other three numbers before. And electronically, I can give you that ballot as long as you have data or Wi-Fi. And to contribute to the GoFundMe site so we can properly deal with this. Properly deal with this that is affecting us. It's like a sore in our country. Good night. This is Gavin Matthews. This is Dr. Matthews. Good night and Cheerios for now.